Ever wish you could peek behind the curtain of a job? Like one that's important, essential even, but maybe not something you chat about at the coffee machine every day.
Right, like those jobs that are crucial but kind of under the radar.
Exactly. Well, today we're doing exactly that. We're diving deep, and I mean deep, into the world of Social Security officers.
Interesting. I'm intrigued already. What's the angle?
Well, Social Security, it's kind of one of those things, right? It touches pretty much everyone's life at some point.
Oh, absolutely. Everyone knows someone who's dealt with it or will themselves eventually.
But here's the thing, how many of us actually understand what those officers do? Not just the general idea, but like the day-to-day.
Good point. I'd say most people probably only think about it when they need something, which can be stressful.
You got it. So whether someone listening is thinking, hey, this could be a career, or they're prepping for an interview, or even if they're just insanely curious, this deep dive is for you. And we've got the best guide, RoleCatcher's in-depth resources on Social Security officers.
I've heard good things about RoleCatcher. They get into the details
You
with.
really do. No fluff here. We're talking the nitty-gritty of the job, the skills you need, even how to totally nail that interview. Everything's covered.
Okay, I'm sold. So walk me through it. What does a Social Security officer actually do all day? Paint me a picture.
Okay, so picture this. You're a guide, right? A steady hand in a system that, let's face it, can feel a little overwhelming sometimes. And that's what these officers do, according to RoleCatcher. They're explaining benefits, helping people navigate all the ins and outs, and even doing a little detective work to make sure everything's above board.
Oh, interesting. So it's not just about processing paperwork. There's a real investigative aspect to it.
Exactly. Think about it. You might be verifying someone's work history, checking if their claims line up, all that good stuff.
Wow, that's way more dynamic than I imagined.
Yeah.
It's almost like financial detective work.
Huh. I love that financial detective work, and it's only becoming more crucial, especially now. We've got this aging population. More and more people are going to need help navigating this system. It's a big deal.
You're right. It's a growing field for sure. And with those demographics, the impact is huge. Imagine being the person who helps a new parent access their maternity leave, for example.
Oh, for sure. That's life-changing.
You're directly impacting families, livelihoods. It's pretty incredible when you think about it like that.
It really is. And it's not just about parents either. We're talking sickness benefits, dealing with unemployment, pensions. These officers are on the front lines, helping people access a safety net.
It's a huge responsibility, dealing with people's livelihoods, their well-being. You need a lot of empathy for that kind of role, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. And that's something RoleCatcher highlights too. They don't shy away from the emotional side of this job, but more on that later. First, let's talk about the upsides, because every job has them. RoleCatcher talks about stability, job security, that's a big one.
Oh, yeah, especially with how the job market can be these days. That's a huge draw for a lot of people.
And then there's the government benefits package. Can't forget that.
Right, that's a big plus. But it makes you wonder, why are those perks so often tied to these kinds of jobs?
That's a great question, and it's interesting because RoleCatcher actually provides some insights into that.
Oh, really? Let's hear it.
Well, they point out that those pros, those perks, they're directly tied to the nature of the work itself.
How so?
Well, think about it. Social Security, it's a cornerstone, right? A fundamental part of the safety net. It's not going anywhere no matter what.
That's true. It's pretty much essential at this point.
Exactly. So the stability, the job security, it comes from that inherent need for the work itself. Makes sense.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But like any job, I'm sure it's not all sunshine and roses. What about the challenges? RoleCatcher doesn't shy away from those, do they?
You know them. They keep it real. And they definitely don't sugarcoat the potential downsides. For instance, the workload.
Oh, yeah, I bet. Dealing with all those cases, all that paperwork.
It can be a lot, they say. And then there's the bureaucracy, those infamous hoops you sometimes have to jump through.
Ugh, the dreaded red tape.
Yeah.
And on top of all that, let's not forget the human factor. You're dealing with people who are often going through really tough times. I imagine that takes a toll.
Oh, absolutely. RoleCatcher brings up the emotional aspect, and they're very upfront about the risk of burnout in this field. It's not just about knowing the rules, it's about handling those heavy situations with empathy and grace day after day.
It makes you think, you know? It takes a special kind of person to do that well. Someone who can be both compassionate and resilient. Someone who can navigate the system without losing sight of the human beings at the heart of it all.
Totally. They need that balance. Empathy, a thick skin, and a knack for cutting through the red tape. So let's say someone's listening to this thinking, okay, challenge accepted, but how do I even break into this field? Well, good news because RoleCatcher maps out the whole career ladder.
Oh, perfect. So like where you can start and where you can go.
Exactly. From entry-level positions all the way up to senior roles, they've got it covered. They even break down those must-have skills, what you need at each stage to really succeed.
So it's not just about climbing the ladder. It's about building that expertise along the way.
Right. Maybe you start by learning all about the benefits system, eligibility, all the nitty-gritty. But then as you gain experience, you might take on mentoring, leadership roles, even shaping policy. The potential for growth in this field is pretty remarkable.
And speaking of setting yourself up, what about education? What do they recommend?
They actually have a whole section on that. They highlight different paths you could take, which is cool. We're talking social work, sociology, even a good old business administration degree gets a mention.
Interesting. It makes sense when you think about it. You need those people skills, that analytical mind, and a good grasp of how systems work. It's a pretty unique combination.
Totally. And they don't stop there. They also talk about specialized certifications like the CSSA, CSSS, CBS. Have you heard of those?
I have, actually. Those are pretty much the gold standard in this field, right?
Exactly. Think of them as a way to really stand out. It's like saying, hey, I'm not just here to punch in and out. I'm here to make a real impact.
Especially in a job market that's getting more competitive, having that edge can be crucial.
For sure. So we've talked about the job itself, the good and the maybe not so good, the career paths. But let's be real for a minute. How do you actually land one of these positions? Because that's where RoleCatcher really blew me away.
Let me guess. They don't just give you some generic advice and call it a day.
No way. They go all in on interview prep, and I'm talking next level stuff.
All right, you've got to tell me more. What's their secret sauce?
Okay, so get this. They have this huge database of over 120,000 interview questions, specifically tailored to different careers, including, of course, Social Security officer positions. But it gets better. They even offer AI-powered feedback on your answers.
Wow, that's incredible. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
Right. It's a game changer. No more scouring the internet for those generic tips. And to give you a taste, they share some sample questions in their guide.
Ooh, I love those. Like what? Give me an example.
Okay, so you've got your classics like what inspired you to pursue this career? Always got to be ready for that one. But then they get into those curveball questions like how do you handle difficult clients? And that's huge in this line of work.
Oh, 100%. It's not just about knowing the rules and regs. It's about, well, how you deal with those tough situations.
Yeah.
Can you keep your cool, de-escalate things, all while being empathetic and respectful? That's what makes a truly great Social Security officer.
It really is a unique skill set.
And this is where RoleCatcher really shines, because they actually encourage you to practice answering these questions out loud.
Oh, it's so smart.
It's one thing to have a killer answer in your head,
Yeah.
but delivering it confidently in an interview, that's a whole different ballgame.
Absolutely. It's like anything, practice makes perfect. So RoleCatcher, they get you ready for that moment. But here's the best part. They don't just stop at the interview. We're talking a whole career toolkit here. They've got resources to help build a killer CV or resume, databases packed with potential employers. It's amazing.
It's like having a career coach, cheerleader, and a research library all rolled into one.
Exactly. It shows you just how much job hunting has changed. Gone are the days of sending out a generic resume and hoping for the best, right? Today, you got to be proactive, strategic, have a plan. And that's what RoleCatcher helps you do.
I love that.
It's like they're saying, look, we're not just going to tell you about this career. We're going to give you everything you need to go out and get it. And that's just fantastic. So, wow, we've covered a ton today. We explored what it means to be a Social Security officer, the good, the challenging, how to build your career, even how to absolutely crush that interview, and all thanks to the amazing resources from RoleCatcher. But before we wrap up, I want to leave you with something to think about. We talk a lot about the future of work, right? All the changes happening, technology, automation, AI. So I'm curious, how do you see the role of a Social Security officer evolving over the next decade? Will we be talking to virtual assistants? Will AI be handling more of the routine tasks? Or will that human touch, that ability to connect with empathy and understanding, will that always be irreplaceable in this field? It's something to consider as you think about your own career journey. And hey, who knows, maybe one day you'll be that friendly face on the other side of the desk, helping someone navigate the world of Social Security. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. It's been a pleasure exploring this with you. Until next time, keep those questions coming and keep diving deep.